But I want to let you know, doubt is not necessarily a bad thing. There was a moment when Jesus had served the people. He had basically taken a breadstick and a can of sardines and fed an entire village with it. And then afterwards, he went up on the mountainside to pray, and he sent his disciples back across the sea. And as he was doing that, he said, you go there, I'll catch up with you. And so Jesus sends them off. He's up praying. And meanwhile, while he's praying, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water as one does. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were like, oh, that's Jesus, typical. No, they were terrified because it's 3 in the morning. They've been fighting the wind and the seas. It's raging. The boat is rocking back and forth. They're like, hey, look, there's a dude walking on the water. And then in their fear, they cried out, it's a ghost, because you don't expect to see somebody walking across water like that. But Jesus spoke to them at once, immediately. Don't be afraid. Guys, it's me. Take courage. I'm here. So Pete says, Lord, if it really is you, tell me to come to you walking on the water, because that's how Pete is. He's just impulsive like that. And Jesus says, yeah, come on over, Peter. So Pete jumps over the side of the boat and walks on the water towards Jesus. Keep that in mind. We move on. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, Peter got terrified and he began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. And we give him a bad rap for this, right? You may have heard this taught before. Oh, Pete, he took his eyes off Jesus and he began to sink. Oh, Pete didn't have enough faith. Oh, he began to sink. Who else got out of the boat? Anybody? Right. Who else was like, Jesus, you tell me to come, I'm coming. Who else walked on water? Let's cut Pete some slack here. The boy showed some serious faith. He walked on water, he went towards Jesus. Let's not beat him up too much for that, okay? He's in a good spot. But then he begins to sink. And Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. You have so little faith, Jesus said. Why did you doubt? So when they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshiped him. You really are the Son of God, they exclaimed. Now ask the question, why did you doubt? You may have heard this taught that Jesus was chastising Peter, that he was blaming him, that he was kind of harshly going against him. I used to think that. I had taught that before, but the more you look at this, I don't think that's the way it went. What if Jesus questioned, why'd you doubt? What if that question was really less an accusation and more an invitation? Less condemnation and more encouragement. You know, Jesus immediately reached out his hand to Peter. Immediately reached out his hand. The one who reaches out their hand, that's not an act of condemnation, that's compassion, that's saving, that's rescuing. I don't think he was beating Peter up. I don't think he was speaking harshly to him. Pete, you don't have any faith. Why you doubt me? I think Jesus was pretty gentle. I think he was inviting in that moment. I think he was reminding Peter, you still got a long way to go in your faith, buddy. Why'd you doubt me, though? You know who I am. Just a few hours ago, man, you saw me turn a Lunchable into an all-you-can-eat buffet for an entire village. You saw me walking on the water. Pete, why'd you doubt? You know what I can do. You know who I am. You know I got you. I got you. So Jesus met him right there in his doubt. Peter's drowning in the water, but he's also drowning in his doubt, and Jesus reaches his hand out to him right there, meets him where he is. I got you. I got you. Friend, I want you to know that doubt is not the enemy of faith. In fact, doubt is often an invitation to a deeper faith, to a more substantive faith. If you face doubts, if you face uncertainty, I get it. In fact, let me just ask, anyone here ever face doubt? Anyone in here ever wrestle with some spiritual? Go ahead and lift your hands. If you have ever had some spiritual doubt, some uncertainty, yeah, that's good. Some of our Bible teachers raising their hands. I love that because it's true. Guess what? My hand's still raised. I'm right there with you. I get it. Those of you online, if you've ever had some doubt, go ahead and let us know. Yeah, me too. I'm in that boat. And get this. Like, I won't just speak of it like it was in the past, okay? Not just that I have had doubts, but I wrestle pretty often. Different things at different times and different seasons. The fact that I have walked with Jesus for nearly 3 decades, the fact that I'm a preacher does not make me immune to doubt. In fact, sometimes the nature of my study causes me to doubt. But I don't have to worry about that. I look at that as a way to move through that doubt into a closer, more vibrant relationship with Jesus. You know, Jesus asked Peter, why do you doubt? I think that's a good question for us. It's not sin. Your doubt does not mean your faith is weak, does not mean your faith isn't sincere, does not mean all the things that you once believed are no longer true. That's not what it means. Doubt means you are moving towards Jesus. It means you're wrestling. It means you're learning to own your faith. It means you're growing in your faith. It means you're learning how to trust Jesus even when you don't have all the answers, or even when the answers you have are the ones you don't want. It means you're learning to trust even still. And that's what doubt means. Your doubt does not disqualify your faith. Not necessarily. So I want to encourage you, when you face doubt, don't panic, don't freak out, but process. Allow it to drive you toward the answers, and ultimately allow it to drive you toward Jesus. Jesus, would you meet me in my doubt? Would you reach your hand out to me as I'm drowning in this? Friend, doubt does not need to become denial, and deconstruction does not need to become disbelief. You know, is it possible that we can doubt faithfully? That we can doubt with faith? Like Elijah in the Old Testament, God, I believe you, but where are you? Having a hard time seeing it right now. Maybe we doubt like John the Baptist, Jesus, I trust you, I trust that you're the one, but are you really the one? Am I gonna die in this prison cell? Are they gonna take my head? Jesus, are you the one? Maybe we doubt like the father of the demon-possessed boy, I believe, help me overcome my unbelief. Maybe we doubt like the disciples walking with the resurrected Jesus on the road to Emmaus. Oh, we believed he's the one, we trusted he's the one, but now we're not sure. They didn't realize they were with the one and he was resurrected. Maybe we can learn to have faith through doubt like Thomas did. You remember Thomas, what's his nickname? Doubting Thomas, right? We give him this bad rap, like that's a nasty nickname. Oh, he doubted. Listen, you tell me that one of my best friends died and now he's walking around, I might have some doubt then too, right? Like trying to figure the thing out. And so what does Jesus do? Jesus meets him right there in his doubt, meets him right there. Doesn't chastise him, doesn't scold him, doesn't be like, oh, Thomas, you doubted, get out. You're not cut out for this. No, it's like, Tommy, you need to see right here in the hand, right here in the side. You touch, you believe, good. Now others will believe because of you. Jesus meets him in his doubt and moves him through doubt to belief. And I think he wants to do the same for every one of us as well. Is it possible that we could doubt with faith like the earliest disciples? You know, from time to time we'll preach on Matthew 28, 18 through 20. It's the Great Commission. Jesus tells his followers, all authority on heaven and on earth has been given to me. And because of that, I want you to go and make disciples of every nation, make followers of every person everywhere, teaching them to obey what I've commanded you, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And don't worry, because I'm always going to be with you. I'm never going to leave you, never forsake you. But you know what happens right before that, immediately before that, the verse before Jesus tells them that? Jesus has told his friends, his followers, meet me on this hillside. And they meet him there, and he's getting ready to tell them this. And this is what happens right then. When they saw him, they worshiped him. Now let me point out what this him is, right? Who is him? It's Jesus. But this is resurrected Jesus. This is Jesus who they saw get arrested and beaten and tortured and whipped and crucified and killed and dead and buried. And now he's back to life walking in their midst. That's the him. So they see him and they worship him. Yes, you would, right? Woo. But notice this. But some of them doubted. The resurrected King of the universe standing in front of them. I'm going to worship, but I got some doubts. Like some of this doesn't make sense. Hold on. Let me figure this out. Like let me worship through my doubt. Can I doubt even as I worship? Like that's what they're wrestling with. And you know what this means for us? The significance of this is that we can worship the resurrected Jesus even if we have some doubt. That we can still come to him and allow him to stand in our midst. So we can stand before him and say, I believe, I worship, I fall, but I still got some doubts here. Church, let me tell you, we had some young people, multiple generations of young people, asking some deep, genuine, theological, tough, legitimate questions. They have some doubts, and part of this, they have doubts because of what they've seen in the church. Let me just read to you some of the questions coming out of that generation. Why do Christians think they're better than others when everyone sins? Why is LGBTQ sin treated so much worse than the sexual sin of straight people? Why does the church care so much about politics, but so little about the poor and the hurting and the marginalized? Why do we embrace political candidates that contradict our purity culture? Why is the church against taking care of the environment when God is the one who created the earth? Why is the church against women when Scripture and Jesus elevated women? Why are Christians so unloving and angry? Why is the church so segregated? Why does the church oppose science? Why aren't Christians more generous? We have an entire segment of our population becoming disillusioned. And disillusion is the child of illusion. They had the illusion that Christian leaders are actually who they appear to be. And for any who know my story, you know how deeply that stings me to say. That they had the illusion that Jesus' followers would be known by their love. That they had the illusion that the longer people are in the church and walk with Jesus, the more they will mature and grow, and they'll display that kind of fruit in their life. You know, a lot of people are doubting because there's a wound they just can't resolve because they've been hurt. You know the story. A Christian leader who you love and you respect ends up being somewhat less than you thought. The Christian leader with the hidden sexual sin, the student pastor who gets the DUI, the dad who loves Jesus and loves the church and loves your mom and ends up, you find out, apparently loving other women as well. One person interviewed said this: for me, the reason I doubt is because what I read in Scripture, I just don't see in the church. And that should cause us pause. See, church, there's validity to the claims laid against us. But let me just make sure we understand this. The church is full of hypocrites. Always has been, always will be. It's just best if we acknowledge that. The church is full of hypocrites because the church is full of people, and everyone, myself included, all of us don't quite appear to be who we are. I mean, every one of us has some inconsistency in what we claim and what we believe, whether in the church or out. It's true. It's just part of being human. We wrestle with that. That's part of our sin nature. The church is full of hypocrites. It always has been. This is why we have so much of the writings of the New Testament, because Peter and Paul and James and John were writing to the church about these issues. Hey, guys, you claim to do one thing, but you're living a different way. Hey, you got this going on. You need to get rid of that and do this. And guys, listen, follow Jesus, not this. I mean, all of it was just a breakage of like, the people are messed up, man. Like, that's who we are. It always has been, and the reason we go back and we read those things and reread them, 2,000 years of reading and rereading and teaching and preaching on what the early church was dealing with, is because we're still dealing with that stuff. Because human nature is human nature, and we still wrestle with our sin tendencies. So we're hypocrites. The best thing is not to pretend that we're not, just to own it. Yeah, we got mess. We're the church. Come join the mess. You want to be part of us? Okay, you're just going to add to the mess. You're not like you're going to fix it. Not like you're not one of us, right? But the worst thing, the most hypocritical thing is when we pretend, oh, come to the church, we're better than everybody else. And we might not say that, but if we give that attitude, if we give that look, if we tend to live that way, listen, following Jesus does not mean we're better than anyone else. Not at all. Because we didn't do anything. He's done it for us. It's by grace we're saved through our faith, not anything that we've done. If left to ourselves, we're damned to hell. That's what So listen, following Jesus means we are no better than anyone else. It simply means we're better off because of what Christ Jesus has done for us. And if we'll live that, if we'll show that, then hopefully that will transform us. Hopefully we will see transformation. We'll see Christ show up in our lives a little bit more.